Unit 2, Physical Geography. The first step in understanding our physical geography is being able to describe Earth's physical features. And we really do this through the description of the physical landscape, including bodies of water and landforms. The biggest bodies of water are oceans, and oceans cover about 71% of the planet. And our oceans are divided into 4 main parts, with the largest being the Pacific Ocean. Oceans circulate through 3 basic motions that help to distribute heat on the planet. And those basic motions are currents, waves, and tides. Currents act like rivers flowing through the ocean. Waves are swells or ridges that are produced by winds. And tides are the regular rise and fall of the ocean created by gravitational pull. Lakes hold about 95% of Earth's fresh water, and those freshwater lakes were formed by glaciers thousands of years ago. We also have saltwater lakes, and usually those are created when creeks or rivers carry salts into a lake, but then there's no outlet to carry the salt away. Rivers and streams connect into drainage systems that feed larger ones, which is just moving water to or from larger bodies of water. They connect to these drainage systems that usually work like branches of a tree, with small branches we call tributaries feeding larger and larger ones. An area drained by a major river and its tributaries is called a drainage basin. Landforms are naturally formed features on the surface of the Earth, and we have oceanic landforms and continental landforms. Oceanic landforms are very similar to the landforms that we see on the continents. Earth's surface from the edge of a continent to the deepest part of the ocean is called the continental shelf. And the ocean floor has ridges, valleys, canyons, and plains, just like continents. Mountain chains that are similar to those on continents cover part of the ocean floor, and islands that are formed by volcanic action, deposits of sand, or deposits of coral skeletons. Continental landforms are generally separated from one type of another by relief, which is just the difference in elevation of a landform from its lowest point to its highest point. And there are 4 categories of relief: mountains, hills, plains, and plateaus. Mountains have great relief compared with a plain, which has very little difference between high and low points. And topography is the combination of the surface shape and the composition of landforms and their distribution in a region. And topographic maps generally show landforms with vertical dimensions and their relationships to other landforms. So what are the forces that change landforms and create landforms? The first of which, and probably the most important, is tectonic plate movement. And tectonic plates move in 4 different ways. We have divergent plate spreading, which is where plates are moving apart, like the Great Rift Valley in Africa. And then you have convergent, which happens with subduction or collision. With subduction, the plates collide and one plate goes under another. And this is where we have volcanoes form. The other form of convergent movement is collision, where the plates will buckle and fold, and generally mountains will form here. And then a transform boundary is where plates slide past one another. And often on these boundaries you have a lot of earthquakes. And this is the type of boundary that you have in California. Earthquakes are when plates grind or slip past each other at a fault, at a transform boundary. Thousands of earthquakes occur every year, but most are so slight that we can't feel them. Plate movement around the Pacific Rim is especially vulnerable to earthquakes. Earthquakes often cause a lot of damage, and the change is most notable in places where people live. And some effects of earthquakes can be landslides, fires, or collapsed buildings. When an earthquake happens underwater, it will create a giant wave in the ocean called tsunamis, and the deadliest of which just happened 15 years ago in December of 2004 on the floor of the Indian Ocean, which was a 9.3 magnitude. Volcanoes are mostly found along tectonic plate boundaries, and the Ring of Fire, the area around the Pacific Ocean is the location that has the most active volcanoes. And there's actually 8 major tectonic plates that meet in this zone. Also in this area, there's a lot of volcanic ash that produces fertile soil, and that energy can actually be tapped for consumption as well, so people can actually heat their homes with it. Another force that changes landforms is weathering, which are the physical and chemical processes that change the characteristics of rock on or near the Earth's surface. And this is a process that occurs slowly over many years or even centuries. And lastly, we have erosion. This occurs when weathered material is moved by the action of wind, water, ice, or gravity. And usually for erosion, there has to be a transporting agent, like water, wind, or glaciers, and that transporting agent has to be present. Water erosion happens when rivers carry loose material and carry it downstream. The wave action reduces or increases the size of beaches. Wind erosion happens when wind transports and deposits sediment into other locations. Oftentimes this happens in things like dust storms. Or you have glacial erosion, where large, long-lasting masses of ice move due to gravity. And this process is called glaciation, which is a change in landform by slow movement. And the Great Lakes were actually created by this type of movement.